Welcome to The Explainer. Let's dive right in, shall we? Today, we're unpacking a really fascinating philosophical framework straight from the teachings and writings of the guide Jue Feng, the founder of Life Chan Yuan. He has laid out this highly structured concept, basically an architecture of the mind, that attempts to explain the very essence of human existence, our spiritual evolution, and exactly where we fit into the cosmos. It's called the ladder of human thinking. We're going to break down what this ladder is, how it actually works, and, well, where you might just find yourself standing on it. To really grasp where this philosophy is coming from, we have to look at this striking quote directly from the source. It says, "A pig, despite having 10 pig pens and mountains of feed, is still just a pig. A person, despite having 10 villas and billions of dollars, is still just a person." I mean, wow, right? It brilliantly hits the nail on the head regarding the guide Xu Feng's core premise. Material wealth and physical circumstances absolutely do not change our fundamental nature. You could literally stack up all the money in the world, but according to Life Chan Yuan, if you haven't changed your mind, you haven't actually elevated your existence one bit. So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the essence of being, move on to wealth versus mindset, climb the 8-step ladder, do some mapping of historical minds, and finally, look at the ultimate spiritual goal. Let's get to it. Section 1. The essence of being. So, how exactly does Life Chan Yuan categorize existence? Let's take a look. According to the guide Xu Feng, the essential difference between people, animals, and divine entities doesn't come down to physical biology or supernatural powers. Nope, it lies entirely in their level of thinking. In this doctrine, your physical form is completely secondary. The text actually gives some incredibly vivid examples of this. It says the only reason cows and horses are cows and horses is because their thinking just hasn't reached the human level. It even goes so far as to say if a fox possessed human thinking, it could become a fox spirit. And get this, if a literal pine tree possessed the thoughts of a Buddha, it would be a Buddha. The absolute crucial point here is that mind dictates form, not the other way around. Section 2. Wealth versus mindset. Let's see how this philosophy builds into a pretty high-stakes scenario. The sheer weight of consequence placed on your daily thoughts here is pretty staggering. The guide Xu Feng teaches that if an ordinary person doesn't change their conventional thinking, they could live 1,000 years and, well, remain completely ordinary. But if they learn from animals, if they start adopting animalistic thoughts, they'll eventually descend and literally reincarnate as an animal. Now, on the flip side, if a person's thinking at the exact moment of their death is that of a saint, the text states with absolute certainty that they are going to ascend to a higher life space. Basically, your mindset is your actual vehicle for the afterlife. Section 3, the 8-step ladder. This is the core architecture of the whole concept. So the guide Xu Feng divides human thought into 8 distinct rungs, and he encourages his followers, who he calls academicians, to ascend them step by step. Let's look at the lower 4 rungs first. Step 1 is material thinking. This is the foundational level, and according to the teachings, it's where the general public resides. It's focused purely on surviving in the physical, tangible world. Moving up, step 2 is image thinking, where the mind starts to grasp art, emotion, and aesthetic beauty. Step 3 is associative thinking. This is the realm of logic, linking complex ideas and scientific inquiry. And step 4 is illusory thinking, where the mind explores the metaphysical, the unseen, and the prophetic. Keep these specific rungs in mind, because we're going to see exactly who occupies them in just a moment. Passing step 4 is a huge deal. It means crossing a profound spiritual threshold right into the top half of the ladder. These are the higher spiritual mindsets. Step 5 is visualized thinking, which is a state of deep inner clarity. Step 6 is Taiji thinking, where one grasps the ultimate duality and harmony of the universe. Step 7 is formless thinking. The text describes this as an incredibly high spiritual state that is completely detached from all worldly bounds. And finally, sitting at the absolute top of the whole shebang is step 8, holographic thinking. The text really emphasizes that this highest realm is something ordinary people just cannot imagine. It's considered the omniscient thinking of a god. Section 4, mapping historical minds. This is where the framework gets highly specific and, honestly, really fascinating. Prepare to be a little surprised by this one. The guide Xu Feng actually categorizes some of the most brilliant artists and scientists in human history and places them strictly on the lower half of the spiritual ladder. For instance, the legendary composer Beethoven, he's placed at level 2, image thinking, because his genius relied heavily on the emotion and aesthetics of sound. Albert Einstein, literally one of the greatest scientific minds ever, is placed at level 3, associative thinking, driven by his incredible capacity for logic and linking complex scientific theories. And level 4, illusory thinking, is reserved for figures like the brilliant ancient strategist Zhuge Liang, along with prophets and astrologers who navigated the metaphysical. So, from the perspective of Life Chanyuan, these worldly geniuses, despite their immense contributions to humanity, haven't actually crossed that vital spiritual threshold into the higher rungs yet. Now contrast that with the upper rungs, which are occupied almost exclusively by the founders of major religions and ancient philosophies. Muhammad is placed at level 5, possessing visualized thinking. Laozi, the ancient Chinese philosopher, sits at level 6 with Taiji thinking, which is exactly what allowed him to grasp the cosmic balance and write the famous Tao Te Ching. And Sakyamuni Buddha is placed at level 7, having achieved formless thinking. You can see a super clear distinction being made here, right? Intellectual and artistic genius stays on the lower rungs, while profound spiritual enlightenment occupies the top.
Section 5, the ultimate spiritual goal. Now that we've mapped out this entire ladder, what are followers actually supposed to do with it?
The directive from the guide Xu Feng to his followers is incredibly strict. His absolute requirement for Life Shanyuan academicians is to completely abandon those first 4 types of thinking. That means consciously leaving behind the material, image, associative, and illusory levels. Essentially, they are told to bypass the cognitive realms of the general public, Beethoven, and Einstein. Instead, followers are instructed to directly enter the upper half, starting right at visualized thinking and deliberately climb upward from there. And as they climb, there's a very specific target they're aiming for. Level 7, formless thinking. Remember, this is the thinking of Buddha. The guide Xu Feng advises his followers to thoroughly understand the Diamond Sutra to help them reach this exact state. But the most crucial takeaway here is the why. Reaching the realm of formless thinking is presented as the only pathway for his followers to reach what he calls the Celestial Islands continent. It is the ultimate, non-negotiable destination for practitioners of this philosophy. But you might be wondering, what about the very top, level 8, holographic thinking? Well, according to the source material, the guide Xu Feng claims this 8th rung entirely for himself. He states that because he resides in this ultimate state of holographic thinking, he possesses divine cosmic knowledge. The text claims this level grants him a complete, unclouded understanding of the origins of the universe, the origins of life and mankind, the characteristics of the greatest creator, and even the mechanics of 36 dimensions of space. In his writings, it is presented as the absolute pinnacle of cosmic awareness. All of this leaves us with a seriously fascinating concept to reflect on. We've explored Life Shanyuan's doctrine that material wealth means absolutely nothing, and that your mental state is the single true measure of your existence. So looking at this framework, I'll leave you with this thought. If your daily thoughts truly dictate your ultimate destination, which rung of the ladder are you climbing each day? Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and keep exploring.